Hello, Pascal. That's
Hello.
a real pleasure to do an interview, a video Zoom interview with you for the
My
Temporis
pleasure.
magazine and Temporis Media. And
Thank you, Dan.
I will start with some questions regarding the Watch and Wonders because you are heavily involved in that. And the first question is about how the idea, the initiative came when you realized that actually the real expo cannot be organized. So what was the path of the idea of the concept?
So just to say that basically the evolution from the FHH towards Watches and Wonders included already a digital platform. But the fact that at the end of February, we had to cancel the show left us with not many options for us to be able to help the brands present their news products. So we consulted with the brands very rapidly, and we decided that we should carry on with the digital platform much more quickly than anticipated, because the platform was due to be developed and then launched towards the second part of the year. But then we had to accelerate everything in order to keep the original date of the salon for the launch date of the platform. So we had basically 5 weeks to do everything and compile all the content and ask the brands for content and ourselves create content to launch the digital platform at the intended first day of the salon on the 25th of April.
Mm-hmm. I'm still curious, what was the initial concept of this digital edition? Because from your press releases, we learned that it will be like a virtual exhibition, like you really walk inside the real one. The difference is that you will be not physically there. You will go on a digital world. How close do you think was this idea from the real situation of the Watch and Wonders digital?
Of course, I think you have to be imaginative. Of course, you're not running into a salon virtually. It would have taken months and even more to develop that. I think more pragmatically, the idea for the digital platform was to be launched in a timely manner. So we had to take shortcuts. We had to adapt what was the original plan to something that was actually linked or geared towards the novelties of the brands. That was the main objective, is to present the novelties of the brand. That was the objective number one. And so given the time frame we had, and again, 5 weeks, it's nothing, we were pretty happy with the result.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Also, another a bit strange situation is that from the very beginning, a number of maisons been participating from the moment you open the platform, mainly from Richmond. But also it was the announcement, some other brands soon to come. Yes. What happened in the meantime, with very few exceptions, most of this soon to come, they are not even today. And according to some of our informations, that there are some brands soon to come, which will never join this year. So what happened, if you can tell?
Yeah, I mean, very openly, the situation was, we had to develop that in a big mess, okay? The whole situation of the watchmaking industry was a big mess, still is, in my view. And we asked all the maisons to give us a lot of content in a very limited time frame. And of course, there are costs associated to that. And given that time frame and the costs associated, some maisons still wanted to have more time. And actually, in the meantime, we have had a few brands joining. Parmigiani joined us. Yeah. H. Moser joined us. So we had a few maisons still joining us. Some other are still thinking. They can join whenever they want and if they want. So this is really their decision. It's an open platform for all the Watches and Wonders brands. They can take advantage of it, but they are not required to do so.
Okay. What is now the next step in the evolution of the platform in the next months? And here, obviously, I wonder if you will go more into a kind of quick database for reference for anyone who can simply explore the Watch and Wonders digital platform to find out what is going on to the limit of the number of maisons which are already there. That's one path. Another path is to introduce the idea of real digital exhibition, like you walk in, but it's just the initial idea. Or you go also on the e-commerce platform, because it was also announced in your press releases that might come also this kind of e-commerce. So what the future will show us?
So definitely on this platform, there will be no commercial activities. It's the idea of showing the product novelties. This is really the main focus. Then there's going to be a second version of the platform that we are thinking about and also discussing with the participating brands. So probably in the second part of the year, we will have an updated version of the platform. The idea of the platform will always be to be a permanent vitrine of all the Watches and Wonders brands novelties, the ones that they launched at the salon or the ones that they are launching throughout the year. So it's really a platform that is meant to exist, on a permanent basis. It's a permanent display, and then you have the physical touch points that are the salon. Okay, so this is really part of the ecosystem of Watches and Wonders. It will be reserved, at least for the coming period, so the foreseeable future, linked to the maisons that are participating to Watches and Wonders Geneva. So there's no, the only limitation is this perimeter of brands, basically. And then the brands, again, are free to join, throughout the year. They can launch their successive products throughout the year. This is really at their disposal. It is a tool they can use, and we hope they will choose to use it more and more in the future, so that Watches and Wonders become one-stop shopping for all the people passionate about watches, so they can see a multitude of brands and novelties at the same spot. On top of that, I have to add, the Fondation de la Haute Horlogerie is also creating a lot of added content that is not only related to the brands or their novelties, but also some educational content, some business talks, etc. So it also reinforces the interest and the meaningfulness of the platform.
Okay, what will happen next year when you will have a real, hopefully, of course, a real exhibition? How you plan to combine the real exhibition with the digital exhibition?
Well, again, I don't have a crystal ball, so I really hope, and we all here really hope that we will get back to some sort of normality for next April. Until then, we'll consult with the brands, on a regular basis, on a permanent basis, as we always do, to make the best format possible. I'm sure of one thing, is that this digital platform is really one integral part of the Watches and Wonders ecosystem, and we will continue to do so. In what form, what will be available, what will be possible, and we'll need to draw the future with the brands, discussing with them right now, so that we come up with the best possibility for them to showcase their product and to promotion their product.
Okay, now let's go to the next step of real exhibitions. It was announced officially by Rolex, Patek, all the joining brands who left Baselworld that they will organize next year in the same time, in the same place with Watch and Wonders, with the same organizer, which is the Fondation, a new exhibition. Of course, there are a lot of questions regarding this, and I'm wondering, first of all, it will be really in the same place, like just one big exhibitions? I don't know, maybe Watch and Wonders to include the others. You are still planning to do two exhibitions in the same time in Palexpo, and I don't know how people can move from one to the other. They will pay 2 tickets or something like that. But another idea, because it's obvious, question is why we are discussing about April. Because remember the old good times of SHH. It was always the second part of January. It was the most successful time for the watch industry. Why? What is the problem if you have everything somehow in your hands as a foundation? Why you are not coming back to this?
There are many questions in your question.
Absolutely. So, please feel free to answer to all of them.
Okay, so first things first, the date. I think I know this industry for a while, and I know there are many different ways to operate a brand, and there are many different ways to connect with the business. I think part of the industry was more liking the first months of the year, so that they can take order and etc. But I think also a part of the industry is more likely interested in the time to market, basically presenting the product news and being able to have it in the point of sales just afterward. And I think April was a date that was agreed between the, let's say, the major brands of Watches and Wonders and the 5 new brands joining Geneva the next year. And April was actually okay for everyone. So this is more a question to ask to the brands. But I just wanted also to say something. Is I think before 2009 we had Basel and SHH together in end of March or April. So it was not always in January. It has been in January since a few years, but beforehand it was March, April. So I think this is something that will probably stay. And I understand that for some brands, the more you go into the year, the more it's then difficult to plan for the production and then have the products, in the point of sales towards the end of the year. But I think the major actors that we are referring to were totally okay with April, and this is going to stay apparently for the coming years. So that was the first part of your question. About the format of the new salons in 21. Well, it's still very early to tell, because you have to imagine that this change is a major change for these 5 brands. They are changing city, and I think it's a very good thing for Geneva. They are joining our organization in one way or another, but still these things have not been decided yet. So at this point today, it's impossible to tell the exact format for next year. It's a bit too early.
Okay. Let me add just one sentence regarding your answer for the period of time. Please remember that several brands, big or medium, joined Geneva in all the hotels around, renting a lot of spaces during SHH just to exhibit their products in January. Because, by the way, it was 10 years for this period of time, and I never heard any complaints for January. And of course, you're right. Before 2009, it was also in end of March, not April, it was March. So it was a bit better. So these brands, most of them been participating in Basel, they preferred also to come in January in Geneva to exhibit. So that's also a fact, which is also a fact that some of the small brands prefer to rent a lot of lobbies in the hotels, in the different places during Basel World to exhibit their products. Usually the companies which cannot afford big costs. That's also a reality. So that was the meaning of the question, knowing all this, excepting Rolex and Patek, who never did this, that's for sure. But you remember Tag Heuer, remember Hublot, remember Zenith, they did events during January. So it might be in a solution. I'm asking you, actually it's not an answer from you because it's not decided, but can you imagine that an exhibition to be a big one somewhere in, I don't know, February, March?
To be honest, there are a lot of discussions today. Well, these weeks we hear a lot of different initiatives that are, building up for next year. It's difficult to know. I think for us, our commitment is towards the Watches and Wonders brands and these 5 new brands to make the most meaningful type of event for next year. And again, it's quite a big change. And I understand that there are a lot of other brands that are wanting to join, and they are contacting us to join, and they want to find a way to exhibit one way or another, being part of this new format. I think of what I understand about these brands, that the idea of leaving Basel World was not to come to Geneva to make a Geneva World. So I don't think the whole idea is to have all the brands exhibiting in Basel coming to Geneva to do the same. And I think it's going to be difficult also to accommodate all these exhibitors, even if we take only the watch exhibitors, knowing that in Basel World we have pearls, we have jewelry and others. I doubt Geneva can accommodate all these exhibitors in Palexpo. So this being said, again, our first objective is to make the most meaningful exhibition with the brands I told you in 2021. How would the other players come by, join, be on the side or in different ways? I really, today, I don't know.
Okay.
It's very, very simple. I don't know. I would love to know because, time is running. But today, there are a lot of things to be adapted and it's taking a lot of time. But everyone is working very positively towards April. Even not discussing the fact that with this coronavirus thing, that could affect what we are planning. But I think even without that, it's taking a lot of time and energy to align all the players, the main players that we were referring to, so Watches and Wonders brands and the 5 new ones, to make something together. It's quite new for everyone, so it's taking some time, but it will be shaping up fairly soon, I guess.
By the way, talking about new initiatives, what do you think about this Geneva Watch Days? Is in anyhow Fondation involved?
No, it's not. The idea, and which I can understand, is to be able to present the product news in Geneva for a few brands. From these brands, so the main players being Bulgari and Breitling, I think we understand it's not meant as a permanent exhibition. It's a response to the situation that they thought was the best one in order to carry on with business. But we are not involved in this.
Okay. Now allow me to go more to your watchmaking, watch mastering expertise, if I may say. And I will ask you, how do you see the modern era of watch complications? Is there any room to invent something completely new and brilliant in this respect? Which are the complications you love most and you want to see most in the watches?
Here again, a lot of questions into one question. So first things first, I'm always amazed, I've been more than 2 decades in this industry and collecting for 3 decades. In this industry, I'm always amazed by the capacity new watchmakers come fresh on the market and invent something completely different that we never thought was possible. Be it in the way a complication is realized, in a way that time is displayed, in the materials they are used, on the technical solution they are used to realize one or the other complication. So, it's the same for centuries right now. And I'm always amazed, and I think one of the main aspects of the watchmaking industry is that it's renewing itself all the time, despite the economical constraints, despite the the virus and sanitary constraints, these guys continue to invent again and again and again. And this is, I think, one main characteristic of watchmaking is innovation. We build up on movements that are 2 centuries old. They're still the same, balance wheel, but everything around that is being evolved or revolutionized one way or another. We are speaking for a few years now about new escapements, Zenith is coming with new ways. Parmigiani was working on another one, and it's a never-stopping quest for innovation. So for me, difficult to know how it will evolve, but the only sure thing is that it's going to continue to evolve. Coming to the complications, my favorite ones are the ones who are actually useful in a very active life. We have today, all of us, be it a sports watch or a watch that is traveling. Myself, I prefer the watches that they can come with me traveling, and I can really use them for their feature. World time for me is a very useful complication. GMT watch is a very useful complication, but I would say the most useful for me is a perpetual calendar. It's kind of a fascination of a very intricate and very complicated mechanism to develop, and also something that is following you every day of your life, displaying mechanically the right time despite the leap years. For me, it's really fascinating. It's probably the one that is most fascinating, together with the striking mechanism. And I think the minute repeater is really something from the past that is not at all useful today. So maybe my second choice. But hearing the sound of a nice minute repeater is always astonishing for me. It's completely mind-blowing how to make that happen from parts that are from steel and other metals. It's really amazing.
And there is any kind of complication you imagine for the future? Something which could be a new revolution, like it was the tourbillon 300 years ago?
Yeah, I would say an escapement that is much more precise and power reserve that is lasting for maybe a month or so. That would be a revolution for me. And actually, it's not a complication per se, but it's a refinement and probably also kind of a game changer. If we could have more precise watches that are more able to last over time without having to wind, I think that would be a major advancement. And I think this is where we can have the more field for development in the future.
It's interesting that you mentioned, because I'm also passionate about power reserve watches. And actually, a watch with 31 days was released by Lange, as you know, a few years ago. It's not necessarily a big success, but it was there. Even Hublot released a 50 days. So it was done. What do you want to say when you say this could be the future?
For me, it's going to be 31 days for any particular watch we have. Not building up mainsprings one after the other to reach this. It's actually improving dramatically the efficiency of the escapement and the whole year trend, so that you can have with a normal mainspring, like, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 weeks. That would be massive advancement.
Interesting. Now about the industry, because you in your job, obviously you follow the industry. What do you think will be the future of our watchmaking industry in this post-COVID era? How this dramatic decrease of production and sales, as you know, there are different figures, but all the prognosis, all the predictions are around 30 to 40% less eventually produced and sold pieces all around the world of first of all, Swiss watchmaking industry. What do you think this will also mean that less money, less R&D, less new products, less new complications. How do you see this future?
I think 2020 is kind of a lost year. In terms of percentage, I have come up with my own estimation.
Please,
I've looked at I've looked at the numbers in the middle of the quartz crisis in 1975. The year ended with minus 15%. 2009, that was the heart of the financial crisis we all know and lived recently. We had minus 22, which was already massive. And I don't think, seeing the trends I can feel right now, it's a recovery that is quite effective in these weeks. I doubt we will go down more than 30%. My estimation would be between 25-30% max, which is already massive. It's a massive disruption. And I think we haven't seen the end right now.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, it will affect the investments that the brands are doing in R&D. It will affect the number of watches produced. It will affect the number of employees working in these manufacturers and in the point of sales. We already see in many points of the world boutiques closing, retail networks shutting down. But at the same time, we see a major will and let's say, yes, a quest for buying more watches, because the people have been confined, locked down for so much time in an unprecedented situation that there is really a quest for buying. And I think it's kind of some call it revenge shopping. I'm not sure if it's really revenge shopping, but I think people, they really want to seize the moment. They want to, take advantage, indulge themselves, maybe more than before the COVID. So, of course, on many levels, the entry level of watches will suffer. I think many people around the world don't have the money anymore to afford a luxury watch. But above the 5,000 francs limit, a lot of people still have the money because they had the money before. They still have a job. They still have the will to spend. So I think the spending behavior will become more, on the spot. Mm-hmm. And I think for higher and higher end watches, you'll have more and more money flowing in to buy watches. So I think the disruption in terms of the percentage I said before, minus 25, minus 30, will mainly come from lower price points, whereas the 5,000 and above would continue to be strong. And I think in the future, I continue to see this trend in the future where maybe we will lose the entry level completely. Now, buying 500 to 1,000 francs mechanical watch, does it still make sense when you have smartwatches and, iPhones and everything that's digital that are featuring a lot more for the same money? I don't know. I think, in that time, in that price range between 1,000 and 3,000, it will be very difficult in the future. But I think the watch lovers, the people who really appreciate the mechanic for what it is and the watchmaking art, they will continue to invest in higher end pieces. So, I don't have a crystal ball, but if the improvement of the situation continues over the next few months, I think we're probably in 21 we could have kind of a normal year, but I doubt we come back to the same levels we had in 2019 before 2-3 years.
Since you mentioned this, don't you think that the best outcome of this crisis is to adjust the whole watch industry production to a much more reliable figures, to a much closer to the reality of the real customers. I heard, because I'm also quite old in this industry, I'm hearing this all the time. There are collectors out there ready to buy extraordinary pieces. But we know, both of us, that these collectors are already full of watches. Then they started to sell. It's not easy to sell very expensive watches, even during auctions. There are very few brands, as we know, that which are very successful in auctions. So the question is, why not? It's just a rhetoric question, to use this opportunity, because it's an opportunity in this respect, to adjust the whole industry to a more normal, because, you know, by the end of the day, we have only one planet to sell. If one day we'll have another planet to sell watches, that will be great because we can increase production. But now that's it. Even China is is very limited. It's not anymore like you can sell and the sky is the limit. What do you think about it?
No, I think you're right. For such a long time, and I think we just witnessed, you and I, the 20 last years, a major, massive increase of business.
Yeah.
That was just, you know, a couple of years, a bit, you know, so in 2009 for the financial crisis, and then in 2016 with the corruption problems they had in China. But basically, the increase of the business has been dramatic. And I think when this situation happens, it doesn't make for much preview. You know, you don't want to think about the bad times. You just try to, you know, solve today's problems. And I think one of these problems was actually this connection between as you said, the numbers produced and the numbers that the market could absorb. And I think different players have really put their production in conjunction with the sellout, okay, with the true sellout in the point of sale. Yeah. But I think this was not a generality. But I guess today, I hear also from many different sensors that it's going to be more and more the case. And I think one main focus of this industry will be to link the production to the sellout. And I think it's absolutely key. We collectively, the whole industry, didn't do that massively in the past. And I think it's one of the key issues of the future, is to be able to monitor closely what is actually needed by the market, consumed by the market, wanted by the market, and the production. So this might be one of the key findings of this crisis, is to be able to actually much more closely link what you think you produce and what you see the market is absorbing. Yeah, definitely, it's a big issue.
Pascal, thank you very much. It was a real pleasure talking to you. It was a bit out of the box, which is great. I like that. And I keep my finger crossed for you to succeed in all your endeavors.
Thank you very much, Dan. The pleasure is mine, and see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.